56th episode of the Meeple Society, a podcast about board games hosted by two longtime role players turned avid board gamers. My name is Katie.
I'm Greg.
On this episode, we talk about a recent Kickstarter delivery and our initial foray into the world of Disney Lorcana. We continue with the recaps of our collection videos, episodes 16 and 17 this time, and discuss the ins, outs, and the biggest surprises of each one. We open the mailbag and answer a question from one of our Facebook group members. And for our game of the week, we backtrack to World War II and the dawn of the atomic age in the Manhattan Project series. But before we start all that...
So
okay.
this New Year's Eve, I think this New Year's so much different than the last ones we've had. Because
we did. Yeah, it was.
More of our friends were actually looking at the games we have and playing more than just party games. I mean, party games did get played.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I played... No, I did play one.
I played one.
I played the left-right, whatever
left-right
that's
dilemma.
called.
Yes.
Left-right dilemma, yes.
Yeah, we heard. Okay, so... To kind of explain, every year we host a New Year's Eve party for all of our friends. Mm-hmm. We have the game room set up. We typically have the dining room set up. We always have a minimum of 2 tables going. This year we went ahead and set up 4. We never had more than 2 running, but we had 4 available.
Yeah.
We took advantage of the fact that New Year's fell on the weekend this time, and we went ahead and started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon instead of our traditional 6 or 7 in the evening. So we got in an entire day of gaming.
Yes.
We had a lot of friends show up right at 1 o'clock or very shortly thereafter.
Yeah, more than I was expecting.
Me too. And they all stayed till 5 or 6. And then literally as those games were wrapping up, more friends were coming in and they stayed through midnight. So it was like we had 2 different sets happening, and that was okay. Yep. It worked really nicely. All right, so do you want me to go over what we
you
all
can talk
played?
about the games we played.
Okay. Well, the first thing we played, now, as you all know, we are close friends with Co-opal of Nerds, with Doug and Mary from Co-opal of Nerds, and they have a new video series coming up where they are going to be playing through part of their collection, and one of the games they needed to play was Asking for Troubles.
Yeah, it's not really a new series. They've been doing it,
well,
but
that's true.
They're not far in it.
They are revamping it.
Oh, are they?
They are revamping it. They are no longer working from worst to best because they were finding it very hard to get motivated to play games they know are bad.
You mean like we do with the letters?
Yes, but at least not all of ours are bad in one video.
No. Oh, well, okay. I guess. Okay. So how are they doing it?
I'm not sure. I think they were doing alphabetic.
Okay.
Yeah, because the 3 that they did was a number and 2 A's. The 3 that they asked to play. So anyway, the first one we did was Asking for Troubles. I had seen this game, didn't know anything about it. It was a really neat worker placement game.
I seen the latest Kickstarter for it, for the expansion and stuff, and I was like, and I seen it on Doug and Mary's shelf. Yeah. A lot. I was like going, I don't know if I'm interested in this game.
I actually liked it.
Yes, it was actually fun.
We played at a full 7-player count.
Yep.
Everybody who was here at 1 o'clock jumped into the game. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a cool worker placement kind of game.
This one was, Doug won. Now, mind you, he taught it, so we know how that goes.
So he did a bad teach.
Bad teach. Sorry, Doug. All right, we also got in, well, let me rephrase that. You, with our son and daughter-in-law, got in a game of Tokaido.
Which I won.
Which you won, whatever. While the rest of us went out and played 7 Wonders.
Yep.
Now, with this one, again, Doug and Mary, and we were joined by Jessica, one of our former co-hosts. She came in. She had played, oh my gosh, she'd played Duel, and she had played 7 Wonders Architect. She had never played full-on 7 Wonders. And in 7 Wonders Duel, Mark, her husband, our other former co-host, always called her a warmongering heathen. Well, she did not disappoint. She sat next to me, and let's just say I lost because of all of the negative tokens I had.
It's like sitting beside me in 7 Wonders.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the other side of me was Doug.
Which is another warmongering heathen.
So I got 6 -1 tokens. Yeah. Anyway, but it was fun. So she enjoyed learning it. It was a great game. All right. Then you got in a game of Heat. With Jessica and Connor.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I was sitting in on a game of Aquatica with Doug and Mary and Jeff. And then you got in a game.
Did you play the expansion or just the base game?
No, we just played the base game.
Okay.
So, which means
because they had never not played Aquatica.
Right. They had, but they had not played it since the retreat. The year we met them.
Okay.
So 21. So we just played.
Yeah. So we still need to get that out and play it with the expansion.
Yes. You got in a game of Clank.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Which was amazing. That Connor was the one that asked about it because he'd never played it, and Ellery, who played it with me, had never played it, and they both loved it. And I think, of course, Connor won.
Well, of course,
because he wins almost every game he plays.
My notes say you won.
Did I?
By 97 to 79.
That's amazing. I beat Connor at something.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, while you were doing that, I was playing a really neat party game that Jeff brought over called Fun Facts.
Yeah, how'd that go? I didn't get to see that much.
It was interesting. So this one was different. Again, it's kind of got a cooperative nature, similar to So Clover Just One. Whereas there is a question asked. You have so many questions to go through, and you're trying to beat a score.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we had 8 questions out. There were 6 of us playing. And like one of the questions was, what was the most expensive thing you've ever broken? That caused a lot of discussion because none of us could think of anything.
My parents' China.
Well, you'd have been good. But then what happens is whoever's turn it was to read the question puts their piece out there. You all write a number on the back of your and it's all 1 to 100 typically, or a dollar amount. Or a number amount. Like one of the questions was, what is the ideal number of children you want? Well, now all of us are past the point of having children. All of us were. Yep. So we wrote down what our ideal number would have been anyway, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So then whoever's turn it is to answer the question puts their piece out first. And then round robin, everybody has to decide if they are lower or higher than what they think that person would be after they've written their answer. And then it gets back to the person whose turn it was, who read the question, and that person can move their piece up or down, however they want to shift it, where they think, no, I know I'm lower than Doug is. So they move it based on where they think they should fall. And then you start flipping them over. And if you get everything in consecutive order, then you get points equal to 1 point per tile. But if anybody is out of line, that piece has to be pulled out till it does make a consecutive line.
So was it co-op?
Yeah, it's
everybody
co-op.
Scored the points in. Okay.
Yeah, it was all co-op.
So it's one of those you just score points throughout the game and you see how well
like
you did at the end of the game.
Just One or So Clover.
Okay.
That type of thing where you're shooting for a score.
Okay. You probably said that, didn't you?
I did.
I missed it.
But we did really well. I mean, we got a 41. There were 6 of us playing, 8 cards. We got a 41. So that was pretty good. Our highest score would have been, 48? So we only missed 7.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was really neat.
Cool.
So I really enjoyed that one. Next, we got in a game of Cat in the Box. I taught everybody how to play Cat in the Box. Well, you pulled out left-right dilemma with everybody else.
Yeah.
And we heard a lot of laughing happening in here because some of the questions on left-right dilemma can get a little risque.
Yeah.
But even then, when we talked about it in our playing through our collection videos, we stated that in the right group, this would be a fun game. And our friends, we could see this being very popular with a majority of our friends.
Yes.
And it sounds like it was.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, it plays in a pyramid. You start at the top. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure kind of game where you got the word at the top or the phrase question at the top, and you got to decide of the 2 below it which way you would go. And it just works down the pyramid. There's 3 tiers down, and you pick out which little ski resort you're going to end up at, and then everybody else tries to pick the same one. And everybody will turn their dials over after they've picked, and there could be multiple ones, and now everybody has to decide which one they're going to go with, though. So, it was interesting.
Yeah. I heard some of the questions. I'm kind of glad I was not sitting in, especially since my brother was in the game. That would have been a little weird.
Yeah, there was.
Just saying.
There was a few of those questions.
Yeah. Joe and I, bless his heart, it's fun having my little brother in our group of friends. But at the same time, you get into those kind of games, and I'm like, a little too much information. Thank you very much.
Yeah, your little brother, you make him sound like he's a teenager. He's in his 40s.
He's in his 40s, yes. But he's still 10 years younger than I am, so he will forever be my little brother, even though he's taller than I am now. But that's beside the point. Our last 2 games that capped out the night, you taught a few friends how to play Night Cage, while I was teaching other friends how to play Summer Camp.
Well, I partially taught them.
That's true.
You had to come in and reaffirm exactly what I said, and then we still played it wrong.
Oh, that's right. You forgot
because when a monster attacks, you're supposed to discard 3 of the tiles,
Yes.
and we didn't do that.
Well, just
And
made
Catherine
the game
actually
more...
found it because she was looking up a different rule.
Yeah.
Oh, we were trying to figure out what happened because all of our lights were out.
Oh,
So
so you lost anyway.
When all the lights
So
go out, there's no way you can win. And we tried to play it out. And no, because we found everybody found their keys. We found 2 different exits, but we kept rotating that we would never all be on the same tile.
Oh, no.
Because we couldn't light up any extra tiles. It was
Right.
only the tile you were on. So, yeah, so it was like, okay, we can't win.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
But they seem to enjoy it.
That's
so.
good. That's good. Well, I taught other friends how to play Summer Camp. Super light introduction into deck building.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody loved it. And I knew one of the people I taught was Ben. We've known Ben since he was 11 years old. So we have literally known Ben for what feels like forever now.
Well, he's in his 40s now,
Yes.
too, isn't he?
Yes, he is. So he used to work at summer camp. I think he worked at summer camp. I don't remember.
I don't know if he's
one of the
worked at
ones that
summer
did
camp or not, though, but he was always at summer
Regardless,
camp when we were there.
He was
so
a Boy Scout. He's an Eagle Scout. Summer camp is right up his alley, which is the whole reason we bought that game in the first place, is because it was right up our alley. It was a theme that we loved.
Because both me and you and both of our boys had been
have
counselors.
all worked at summer camp before, so he thoroughly enjoyed it. He thoroughly lost it, but he thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, he had 1 merit badge.
Yes. Yeah, he did not do well.
Yep.
I wasn't doing so hot at the beginning, but I still came back and won at the end. So
Well, of course you did.
yeah, but
So it was a bad teach.
yes, there you go. That's what it is. Even though Colleen was way ahead of me at one point.
Yep.
So, but anyway, that was the overall. That was all the games we got played at New Year's Eve, which is by far the most we've ever gotten played.
Yep.
I do find it funny that we literally played 1 game together, and that was trouble with.
I was going to mention that. It's like going, we didn't hardly ever see each other until the dropping of the ball.
Yeah. We were always involved in different games.
Yeah, you were in the dining room running games out there. I was in the game room running games in here. And yeah, and I also thought it was really funny how small the world was. That Ellery was looking through. Now, we don't know Ellery that well.
No.
We know who he is. We've played games with him.
Ellery and his wife are friends of friends. And we have vacationed with them before, but we still have never really gotten to know them.
Correct, though. But he was constantly looking through our collection and everything. I mean, he even posted on X that I hope I can find a game to play and showed pictures of our game room. But he was looking through it, and suddenly I was just sitting there, was trying to figure out another game to play, and he goes, how do you have a copy of this? And he pointed at Gempire, which is a Kickstarter that they was going to back, but they pulled it back to redo stuff with it, though. Yeah. And apparently he knew the designer and backed it, but since it was pulled back, he didn't get it. And then he seen it on our shelf, and he's like, how did you get this? It's like, well, he sent us a review copy because we did a video and everything for his latest Kickstarter. He goes, oh. I said, have you ever played the physical copy or seen the physical copy? He goes, no, I've only seen it on Board Game Arena. I was like, oh, let me show you this game.
Oh.
So, but then he posted on X about that, and Paul Elpers, who is the designer, commented back to him and goes, where were you at?
That you saw a copy of that.
And he said, he goes, I was at the New Year's Eve party with the Meeple Society. He goes, okay. I said, hey, we're doing whatever we can do to help you out and get this, keep this in the mind of everybody. So we're still talking about it. So
total small world.
So, and then this Kickstarter he's supposed to relaunch in possibly in March.
Last I heard was March, but he's saying early this year now, since we're in this year now.
Yes, this is 2024 now.
Yes.
So, okay, but yeah, so that was our New Year's Eve. So why don't we now talk about games we played or back? And we actually got a Kickstarter in recently.
We did. We got in the
Grand Carnival.
Upgraded bits for Grand Carnival and the bigger box, which was the selling point on this game, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Absolutely the
And
selling
then
point.
On the Road is the expansion.
Yes, yes. And the On the Road expansion, we've not gotten a chance to play it yet.
Nope.
But it adds in different scoring options because you're going
You're
to the
traveling
idea
to different
is
cities
you,
now.
yeah, the
You're
idea
a traveling carnival.
Yes. The idea is you are a traveling carnival, and each city that you're visiting now is a different game, and each city offers different scoring opportunities and slightly different variation on the rules.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives in the six space pieces for the carnival.
Yes.
Upgraded all the artwork, and like I said, gave you a bigger box.
It also has the single construction site tiles too.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see what those do. And golden tickets.
Yeah.
And clowns and peanuts. So they got a lot.
They've added
a lot more to this. So
I'm curious to start playing some of these and
the
see
only
how they play.
the only letdown that you seen that I thought too was some of the scoring that we had questions about.
Yes.
That we were kind of
in
iffy
the base
about
game.
In the base game.
Yeah.
Did not really change. Now
No.
I'm not sure if it's going to change much. Because I know on the new the new player boards, it didn't show it changed. So I don't know if any of the new cities, it'll change a little bit or something, but we'll have to see.
The few cities I looked at, it does give more scoring options. I was disappointed because tickets are either all or nothing.
Yes. Yeah, you either get 12 or you don't
get 12. Or you get nothing. The biggest variation on scoring was how many variations of the tiles do you get down? How many 3-space tiles do you get down? How many 4-space tiles?
Yes.
That was the only big difference on the scoring, and still is.
And
so
now
they
add a size 6 tile.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see what the cities do to it. I suspect this is going to be one of those expansions that once we play it, we'll play a different city every time we play it.
Yes. Yep.
I suspect that'll just be what happens.
Yep.
So, but I'm looking forward to getting that one played.
Yeah, but once we get it to the table, we got to get it to the table.
Yes.
Okay. So,
all right.
We have finally gotten, well, let me put it this way. Katie is the ultimate person when it comes to stocking stuffers at Christmas, okay?
Yes.
So I had the same thought in my head, but I unfortunately did not find them. But Katie actually found 2 starter decks for Lorcana.
I did.
Because we always said, hey, I don't think we want to go down this rabbit hole, but we'd like to at least try it so we could talk about it.
Yes.
So we have 2 starter decks. It came with 1 booster pack each in each of the starter decks. And we played it. Now, you had the, what edition did you have?
I had first chapter with, I believe mine has Elsa on the cover. Elsa and
I'm trying
Simba.
to find them.
Elsa and Simba on the cover.
The first chapter, yes.
Yes.
You were the first chapter, and then I was the Rise of the Floodborn.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of Floodborn cards in my deck.
No, I was kind of surprised by that.
So I'm not quite sure exactly how that is figured.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I know, and I did not realize this. And again, just a little bit of background. We used to play Magic. Matter of fact, we still have a lot of first edition cards. Don't get too excited. They're well played. They're probably not worth squat. But we have a lot of first edition cards.
Yeah.
And by a lot, I just mean like one of the big 4-row boxes, not like shoe boxes full.
No.
But this was, oh my gosh, you guys taught me how to play it when Eric was a baby or when I was pregnant with Eric?
Probably actually, I think it was before you were pregnant with Eric.
Okay. Which puts it at least 28 years ago.
Yes.
Is when you guys taught me how to play. And I played for about a year. It was okay. I hate building decks.
Yes,
I'm no good at it. I will take a deck, i.e., that's why I bought starter decks, and play it. But I never liked the
head-to-head.
I never liked the head-to-head combat. I never liked doing damage. It's one thing to do damage to your cards. It's quite another to do damage to the person as a whole. And I never liked that. I never liked the player elimination in Magic.
Yeah.
And I know that is blasphemy for so many people because Magic is where it's at. And Magic got a lot of people started in this hobby and probably still play. And all of our friends still play. 30 years later, they all still play. And I get that. It's just not something I ever enjoyed.
Right.
So I probably haven't played in 25 years.
Yeah, because we played for a little bit.
We did.
And then we stopped. And then the kids got old enough to play it.
Every once in a blue moon, you will pull out a deck with the kids, but even that's probably been a decade now.
I think when Justin took off to college, his roommate and him got into it, and his roommate showed him how to play decks, build decks. So he came back, he wanted to play it, so we played it, and of course he would kill me with it.
So again, that was a decade ago.
Yes,
so
it
so it's been a while.
Anyway.
But that's the background of our TCG
our
knowledge.
Only background on that, because it's the only game we've really played.
It is, yes.
Until now.
So we bought of course, we were at Gen Con with all the Lorcana hype, and we've talked about our opinions on what happened and how Ravensburger handled it versus how the security team at the convention center handled it.
Yep.
I.e. poorly on the first day.
Yep.
After that, better, still not ideal, but much better.
Yeah.
And much safer. But I personally think they should have had their own room. They should not have been in the dealer hall.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been in the dealer hall. Yep.
Whatever. So 6 months later, 5 months later, whatever it's been, it took that long to find a couple decks. Because we talked about a few months ago, getting our hands on a couple decks.
Just so we could try it out.
Just to try it out. And I was up at one of our local game stores. I was at Saltier's a couple weeks before Christmas, picking up something for a couple of our great nephews. Their mom, our nephew's wife, bless her heart, specifically asked for games for her 2-year-old and 4-year-old.
Well, she knew that we could get we'd get them some good ones.
Yep. So we got the boys some games, and I'm paying for everything, and lo and behold, right there at the counter is 6 starter decks. Okay. So we had already set a rule of no gifts.
Right.
But we were allowed stockings. So by gosh, they were stuffed into a stocking.
Yeah.
So it worked.
You crammed them into a stocking.
I didn't cram anything. They were in there nice and neat. But anyhow, so Lorcana, first impressions. It was okay.
Yeah. It's nothing. I don't think it's anything to write home to mom about.
No.
Because, okay, you're not. Well, there is a type of a battle in there. Because you can take other players' cards out.
Yes, you can still take other players' cards out by challenging them. But you can only do that if that card is ventured out.
Exerted.
Exhausted.
No, exerted. Not
Is
exhausted. It was exerted. They had
Exerted.
all their all different
terminology.
terminology. So yeah. So if a card is, as in Magic, if it is tapped, it is called it was exerted.
Okay. But you only exert them if you attack with them or if they
venture.
Thank you. And I don't think that's the word they use.
A few moments later.
For clarity's sake, we had to take a small break and go grab the rule book because BGG and the app were of no help. But the word I was looking for was quest.
Yep. Instead of adventure.
Yes. When a character quests, you exert them by turning them 90 degrees.
Yep.
And then you gain the lore indicated on the card. And then that lore is ultimately what wins you the game.
Yep.
So now characters are put out. This was the one neat thing I found about this, is that you did not have to go through your whole deck looking for mana like you do in Magic.
Yes.
If you get, and pardon my language, if you get mana screwed, we've all said it before.
Yep.
If you get mana screwed in Magic, you might as well hang it up. You're not winning.
Yeah.
But in this one, that doesn't happen. The hardest decision in this game is which cards am I going to turn into ink?
Exactly.
Ink is how you get your cards out. That is your mana of the game.
Yeah, and it's a card that's turned face down.
Exactly.
So you don't know what the card is anymore.
Every card in the deck, well, let me rephrase that.
Not
95% of the cards in your deck can be ink.
Yes.
There are a few that are not allowed to be ink.
Mm-hmm.
But 95% of the cards in your deck can be turned into ink. You're allowed to turn one card per turn into ink. and ink is how you pay for everything else.
Yep.
So there is no mana screw on this one, and I
Nope.
liked that.
Right.
So I feel like Ravensburger or whoever designed this took some of the problems I've always had with Magic and got rid of them, made them more
Right.
made them
Well,
more
they're making it a family-friendly game.
Yes. One side note on this, and like I said, not my kind of game, but this was my biggest Ravensburger. You could have done better. Is those damage tokens?
Yes. What comes with what comes with a pre-made deck, those tokens and the little player mat they come with in the box is like
and the player mat, I get it. You see that in those little bitty decks all the time.
Yes.
Whatever. If you really want something nice, I'm sure if they aren't already out there, there will be neoprene mats out for this.
But how thin those tokens were was
those
ridiculous.
tokens were disappointing.
Yeah, they were thinner than a postcard.
Yes. They were basically cardstock.
If that.
Yeah, if that.
But yeah. And they tell you to use the app. They have the app that has
you shouldn't have to.
Oh, I know, but
they could have at least put a thicker piece of cardboard in there with tokens in it.
And even in the Lorcana video, it says you could even use dice if you wanted to use dice.
Yeah, that's true. Again, you shouldn't have to.
No.
I was very disappointed in a company like Ravensburger. That was the best they could come up with.
It's what they could get into the box.
They could have fit. Never mind. Anyway.
Ooh, we're seeing a dark side here. Let's move on from Lorcana. Enough talking about Lorcana.
Yes.
Without bashing it.
Yes.
So we're going to go into the ins and outs of the board game collection. This week we are talking about episodes 16 and 17.
Yes.
So we're like midway through the Seas? Or are we just starting the Seas?
16. We had 5 episodes of the Seas.
Okay.
So we are, I think, 5 episodes. Let me double check that.
And in episode 17, I see we had to go back.
I take that back. We had 7 episodes of the Seas. So we are almost, we're a little over halfway done with the Seas.
So midway. Okay.
Okay. So episode 16. We finished off our Catans on this one.
Yep.
We split the Catans into a couple of videos because we had a lot.
Had a
So we have Catan Histories, Merchants of Europe, Catan Histories, Settlers of America. Spoilers, they're the same game. Catan Star Trek, Clifford, You're Invited. That's a kid's game. Clinic, Club Penguin, Clue, Clue Master Detective. See if you guys see a pattern here. Clue Mysteries, Decoding Detective Game. Clue Carnival, Case of the Missing Prizes. Clue Junior, Case of the Missing Prizes. Again, a little bit of theme there. Same game. Clue, Harry Potter. Clue, The Big Bang Theory. Clue, The Great Museum Caper. Clue Junior, Case of the Missing Pet. Clue, Dungeons and Dragons. Clue, Firefly. Clue, Secrets and Spies. Clue, Star Wars. And, shockers, Clue, The Card Game.
I'm sorry, did I doze off? I think I dozed off somewhere in Clue.
We played a lot of Clue.
I am done. I think we've played enough Clue for the rest of our lives.
Okay, now you have to admit, some of these were actually intriguing, and they were actually really good games.
Some.
Yes.
But the others outweigh it by a lot.
Yes. Yes, I will have to agree there.
So let's talk about...
So first of all, our inn.
I was going to say, let's start with the inn.
Okay, so the inn was actually one of the Catan games. Now, as I stated, we played a few Catan games here, but Catan Histories, Merchants of Europe, and Catan Histories, Settlers of America, we were actually surprised when we played both of these. We played them back to back almost.
Yeah, and they were pretty much identical.
They were the exact same game. Different settings, one obviously based in America, the other based in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different premises. One was covered wagons, one was trains.
Yeah.
Beyond that, they played exactly the same.
And the covered wagons were actually in the Europe one.
Yes.
Which, when you think about the Old West or the old United States and everything, you're thinking covered wagons and not trains.
They used the trains.
But yeah, Europe was, and I think that's one strike against the
American one.
The American ones is because they had train tracks.
Yeah.
That really
clogged up the board.
Clogged up the board, and the train
Yeah.
that did not fit on the train tracks.
Yep. I liked the America one because it was all wooden components. The Europe one was more plastic and tokens. We ended up keeping the Europe one just because of the board clutter of the America one.
Yes.
Which was shocking to me. I kind of figured we'd keep the Settlers of America, but nope, we kept Merchants of Europe. But it was a good game.
Yeah.
I liked the gameplay itself as a Catan game. I just don't need two that do the exact same thing. No matter what the setting is.
No, and we didn't truly get rid of the game.
True,
it's actually in the travel collection.
We did
now.
just move it over to the
We
travel
just moved
collection.
it over to the
So
travel collection,
okay, all right. So our out.
Yes.
This was actually a kind of a half of a surprise. We did
So
not,
there's a 90% chance that it's a Clue
Yes.
game.
Of all the Clue games we own or owned. This is the one and they were all sitting in the other room. They're all in the travel collection. This is
anymore,
the
though, but-
one I figured for sure was staying just because of the IP, and that is Clue Firefly. But it did not.
Yeah, it just didn't really.
It didn't do anything new.
No, it didn't do really anything new. I mean, it was
just-
pretty much the same old Clue. They just tacked a Firefly theme on it.
Yes.
I mean, they changed a little bit here and there, but it just did not.
It was literally
work.
just Clue with a Firefly theme.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And it wasn't intriguing at all. Now, on the flip side, though, the one that stayed, the Clue that we enjoyed the most, and there were a few I really enjoyed.
Yes.
I like Museum Caper. It's a completely different game. I really like Master Detective because the board is huge. And you've got like 3 or 4 extra rooms to go to and more weapons and more people, and it's just a neat addition of it.
Yeah.
However, the one that intrigued us the most was Clue Harry Potter.
Yes. This one was so cool because
That
the
one was
board
neat.
changed
Yes.
depending on what was going on in the game.
There were 4 wheels underneath the board that changed the entrances and exits of rooms.
And
it
what would happen in the
close
room,
them.
too.
Yes. It changed where the secret passages went to.
Yeah, because you could get
And-
trapped
Yeah.
in
you
a
could.
room.
You could. Now, typically, if I remember correctly, you typically get trapped unless they offer you a secret passage out.
Yeah.
But they shut off doors. You couldn't get into the room.
Yeah, because you could be like, okay, I'm going into that room, and when I
And
get
the
here, I'm going
door-
to go out this side door
Yep.
to go into that room, and then all of a sudden that door closes. You're like,
Yep.
going, now what? Now I got to go back out the long way around. So, yeah, it was really cool. And
Yeah.
surprisingly, I looked this up,
Mm-hmm.
and out of all the clues, this one actually had this was designed by Rob Davio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Mr. Legacy Man himself.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, this one was
Interesting.
designed by Rob Davio.
I
was
can
like,
kind of see his footprint on this.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. Well, that was our big surprise of this one. We surely, especially by the time we got to this one, it was toward the end of our Clue experiences.
Yeah.
We did not expect to actually enjoy any of them, let alone enjoy one that much.
Yeah.
But that one was a good one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
So
Episode 17.
We had to go back.
We did have one go back. We had gotten in our Kickstarter of Autobahn.
Yep.
So that was back to the A's. The games that we played for episode 17, though, we played Autobahn, Coca-Cola NASCAR Racing board game, Coconut Drop. This is essentially, oh my gosh, what is the name of that game?
I don't know. I don't remember it.
I can picture it, where you're pulling the little the straws out and marbles are slowly falling. Kerplunk. This is essentially Kerplunk for kids. Code names, original, a lot of code names. Original, Disney, Duet, Harry Potter, Marvel, and Pictures. Congo Alien Adventure. Coimbra, Colony, Color Clash. Column of Fire, Concordia, Connect 4 and Connect 4 launchers. Yeah, let that sink in. Constantinopolis, Cootie, and Cosmic Encounter.
Constantinopolis, not Tinopolis.
What did I say?
Tinopolis.
Did I really?
Yes, you said Constantinopolis.
Oh, whatever. Anyway. All right, so our in. The game that we enjoyed the most out of this, and it definitely is staying in the collection, was Autobahn.
Yes. Well, we kickstarted it. I hope it's staying in the collection.
It's going to stay for a little while, yes. Just a really neat, I want to say kind of a deck. It's a deck building.
Deck building, route builder, pickup
Yeah.
and delivery game.
Yes, based
Because
during.
you got to build the route to be able to do the
Yes.
pickup and delivery part.
This game is basically all about building the roads, the highway system in Germany, in Western Germany. And then during the third phase of the game, or the third era of the game, the wall comes down, and now you have access to Eastern Germany too, and you can get into Eastern Germany to make deliveries. So
yeah, because the game picks up right after World War II,
yes,
and then ends right after the wall falls.
Of the wall, yes.
Yep.
So very interesting game. We'd always talked about doing a video for it, just never got around to it. So maybe we'll have to try and get that one done because you don't see a lot about it.
No, we'll have to get it back out and
Yeah.
probably relearn it.
Probably.
I mean, I know we played it 3 or 4 times, so
Yeah.
maybe it'll all come back to us.
Yep. All right. The game that is leaving the collection, and this one was never in our collection. This was a kid's game. We actually, not very many left out of this grouping. So this one was it was kind of a no-brainer as to what to put because it was one of the few that left, and that is Congo Alien Adventure.
This had a spinner in it.
Yes, this had a spinner. It was a spin and move where you were trying to move around the galaxy, and I'm totally going off memory here, and this was over a year ago, so
Yeah, I don't remember much about this game.
yeah, it was weird. And I remember it sent you off into into a parallel universe, and you'd get trapped out there and completely lose all progress that you were making.
Yes,
It was just a weird kid's
I kept
game.
getting sidetracked
Yeah.
or whatever, and
It was a
have to go
very
back.
unusual kids game that we just decided was not worth keeping, and the parts were, none of the components were great. So we just decided to get rid of this one, unfortunately.
I was looking at a picture of the board, and one of the tiles that you can move on to, it says, "Time goes backwards here. Stop to change your diaper." I don't remember that.
I don't remember that space.
Here.
Apparently neither of us landed on it. I don't know. Anyway, the biggest surprise, and again,
Yes.
we kept most of the ones out of this collection, and this one
We played this with Justin and Jackie.
we did, and I have not laughed that hard at a kid's game
Yes.
ever.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. We played Cootie.
For the first time for
With
almost all of
our
us.
30-year-old son and his wife, and we laughed. And then after we posted about it, our sister-in-law, my brother's wife, is like, I want to play Cootie.
Right?
So, which, not surprising for Tony. It's just the way, there's just Tony's personality.
Yep.
She loves those types of silly games. But it was just so much fun. It was just a hoot to play. And
Yes.
it was something that I don't remember playing as a kid, but it is a classic. And it's a classic for a reason. So, all right. But anyway, that was our big surprise out of episode 17.
And that does it for the ins and outs of our board game
It
collection.
does.
So, we got mail.
Yay!
We have a question from our Facebook group.
Yeah.
This came from David D. Good, or Good, I believe is what it is. I actually looked him up, and I think he has a pronouncer that says Good.
Oh.
G-U-U-D would be Good, right?
I guess. I don't. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
sounds
David,
right.
if we got it wrong.
Anyway,
So he asked a very interesting question
this
that
was
it racked our brains
And
to
still
figure it
is.
out. It still is. His question was, and see if you guys can come up with it too, and we'd love to hear what you guys think of this. Favorite traditional non-deck building board game? Just dice, tokens, and a board.
Cootie.
Cootie.
There's no cards. It's not a deck builder. And there's dice.
Well, I tried to think of one. At first we was thinking a classic, but it says traditional.
yeah.
But I had thought I have one in my mind of it has dice, it has tokens, and it has a board.
Okay. Excuse me.
Bear Down.
It does.
This is a game that we played for our collection.
That's a little kid's
that
game.
one of the
It's
kids'
so much
games that we had a
fun.
blast with this
We
game.
did.
Because you are placing your bear on the river that has a waterfall on it.
Yes.
And you're rolling 4 dice, is it, for 4 different colors of rivers? And there's little rocks in the rivers that you can jump on and move.
3.
3 is
3
it?
dice. I think it was 3 sets of rivers.
But it'll tell you whether you're adding a tile to the back end of it, which is pushing everything forward to the waterfall. You're adding fish to it, or what have you. And the whole thing is you want to collect the most fish. So
you got to collect the fish and get back to the rocks before you get
and
pushed
then
over the
return it
waterfall.
up so you can collect the fish once you get back up to the very top.
This is the quintessential push your luck.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I can't believe it was a
so
kid's game,
badly.
and we had so much fun playing this
it
game.
was
It's
so
like,
much fun.
do I go out? And you did a lot. You were daring more than I was.
My luck so hard
you would
and
go
I
out to that
lost.
edge because there's like 5 fish out there, and you're like, I could take the lead with this. And every time almost you would go out there, I would roll the dice, and I would push you right off the waterfall.
This would have been a fun one on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Did you see some of our friends playing this?
Yes.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
probably could. But yeah, so once you fall over the waterfall, you lose your fish.
Every one of them.
And then you got to start over.
You start back up on
the
the
only
rocks.
fish you save is if you got them back to the dry land and then put them off to the side.
Yep, if you got them back
But
to
if
the
you still
riverbank.
had them with you and you went over the waterfall, you lost all your fish.
Oh, man.
So yeah, this was a lot of fun.
That one was fun.
So
I also thought of Pente.
Pente, yeah. There's no dice.
There's no dice.
No tokens.
It's abstract strategy. All of the games I've ever seen, you're playing with basically garden stones. You find them a lot in garden centers or Hobby Lobby, places like that, Michael's, for decoration purposes. But the games typically come with just 2 sets of stones. When I was in high school, somebody gifted me one of the rolls with it wasn't even neoprene back then. It was a vinyl mat.
Yeah.
And I still have this roll to this day. I now have 8 sets of stones in it, and we have played up to an 8-player game of this before, and it is hysterical. It is a lot of fun. But I absolutely love it. The whole goal is to get 5 sets, whether you are trapping other people's tokens. The idea is to trap other people's tokens and get 5 sets of other people's tokens, or to get 5 in a row of your stones without other people trapping your pieces or blocking you. Just a lot of fun. It's a great abstract strategy. I think adding more players to it just adds a little more strategy to it, because it's not just it's not the one-on-one where you're doing nothing but blocking the other person the entire game. You can actually try to get something accomplished, and I do like that. So, but yeah, that was the one I could think of. Another great one we have in our collection is, and now I'm going to draw a complete and utter blank. Bizarre.
Bizarre?
Bizarre. It has cards,
It has
but
cards,
the cards
'cause
are the scoring cards. Now that I think about it, I forgot about the scoring cards.
Yeah. Because, see, I thought rolling dice, too, but you have cards that's your goals that you're trying to work for.
Oh, the dice, dueling dice.
Dueling dice,
Yes.
that's it. Rolling dice. Yeah. Because the first thing that came to mind when I read that, I was like, well, Monopoly, but Monopoly technically has cards.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Azul doesn't have cards. There's actually a lot out there that don't, but we were shocked at how many games do.
Yeah, but within saying favorite traditional game, I was thinking roll and move games.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of them that we really like. I'm sure we are totally forgetting it, and if we went over into the travel collection, I'm sure we'd find some more.
Yeah.
But I'm looking the direction I'm sitting in this game room, looking at you. I can look up and I see 2 more. Although I think they have cards in it too.
What's that?
But they wouldn't even be on my favorite list. That's Hardy Boys and the original Battlestar Galactica.
Those are.
Whoo!
Wow. Okay.
Those aren't games. Those are just collectible pieces.
They are 1970s. They are a product of their time.
So yeah, so Bear Down's the only one really. I mean, I don't know how traditional that is though.
Yeah. I said, Pente I think would be one of my favorites. That is a traditional game. It's an older game. It dates back to, and I'd have to go look at the exact date. I got my copy in the 80s.
Yeah. Backgammon.
Yeah.
I liked Backgammon.
Backgammon's good, and it's rolling dice and moving tokens.
Yep.
Backgammon's a good one. So, I'm not sure exactly what he was looking for in his question. I'm hoping that we at least answered it. I don't know.
Well, I think he was. He's. I think it's an opinion question.
Yes, that
is what our opinion was as to our favorite traditional board game.
I'll tell you though, he made us think.
Non-deck building.
Yes, that made.
Yeah, David, you made us think more than any question we've had so far.
Yeah, that was not fair.
So this was an awesome question.
Yes.
So we'd love to hear what everybody else thinks. So
agreed.
When this comes out, when we release this actually to our YouTube page,
yes,
you can actually comment in the comment below.
Please do.
And let us know what you think.
All right.
So this is where we normally have our logo quiz game, but since we had a question, we're going to bypass that and go right into our deep dive. This week we are deep diving the Manhattan Project Trio, which means Manhattan Project, the original one, Manhattan Project 2, which is Minutes to Midnight, and Manhattan Project Energy Empire. Yes. So we're going to talk about Manhattan, the original Manhattan Project first.
All right. Well, the original Manhattan Project came out in 2012, was published by Minion Games, designed by Brandon Tibbetts, art by Victor, oh my goodness, Sesti? I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Clay Gardner and Sergi Marcet. Plays 2 to 5 players.
Would that be Sergey?
Maybe. I guess so, yeah. That makes sense. Sergei Marcet. Anyway, plays 2 to 5 players. The time says 120 minutes. We had it down to like 45 minutes at 2 players. Now, mind you, that's at 2 players. So, yeah, okay, 5 players, maybe it is 120 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but it can be a pretty quick game at just 2 players. So, the Manhattan Project. Now, some of what I'm about to read came from BGG. Some of it came straight out of the rule book. So, this is okay. So the Manhattan Project is based on a revolutionary new technology that has been discovered. This is based during World War II, essentially. Okay, so introduction. A revolutionary new technology has been discovered. Immediately, every major military power recognizes its destructive potential. In Manhattan Project, you are the leader of a great nation's atomic weapons program in a deadly race to build bigger and better bombs. You must assign your workers to multiple projects, building your bomb-making infrastructure, expanding your military to protect it, or sending your spies to steal your rivals' hard work. This is a low-luck, mostly open information efficiency game in which players compete to build and operate the most effective atomic bomb program. Players do not nuke each other, but conventional airstrikes are allowed against facilities built by your opponents. So this one is essentially a worker, as they put it in the rule book, it is a worker placement game with a twist.
Yes.
This reminds me, and actually this predates Everdell, but it has the same worker placement type as Everdell, sort of. There's no rounds. There's no end of round. You literally there's turns. You put workers out, and there's rules on to how you have to put at least one worker. You can only put one worker on the board.
On the main board, yes.
You have your main board, and then you have your player board where you are putting tiles that you're building, and
those tiles those tiles actually have places where you can go later.
Yes,
once you build it.
Can put as many people on your tiles as you want. Of course, only one per tile or whatever it requires to operate it. But you can only ever put one person on the main board.
Yes.
And that's it at a time. And then you can do whatever you want on your player board. But once you've put a person down, you can't go there again until you have ended your round and pulled everybody back.
Yep.
So people are pulling back at different times. You're gaining new workers throughout the game up until you get your maximum number. So you retrieve them whenever you wish to, or when you're forced to by, running out, which is what we did several times. And I think it worked. In this particular game, it worked. In other games, not so much. But we'll get to that. So this one also had the espionage action, where you could take the espionage action on the board, and now you could take one of your characters and go to your opponent's board and do one of their actions. But the only way to do that was to go to the espionage action on the board.
Right.
And then send people over. So it kind of took you extra people. You had to spend more players this way. There were spots on the board where you had to send an engineer or you had to send a scientist. But for the most part, you could send anybody over to do the espionage or anybody to do stuff on your board. And there were icons.
That's right. Okay.
There were icons on each worker spot that showed whether it could be anybody or whether it had to be a specific type of worker.
Right. And when you went to the espionage one, too, your token would move up.
Yes.
So the first time you do it, you can only go to 1 billion of that other players.
Yes.
But the second time you do it, you can now go to 2.
Yes.
But you had to have the workers to go there.
Yes, and that was the key.
Yes.
So the whole premise of this one is that you are trying to build up your atomic bombs. You need to, the game ends when one person gets to a certain number of victory points, which are attained by building the bombs. You could build 2 different types of bombs, plutonium and uranium. So there were 2 different types of bombs in the deck, and there would be bombs set out based on the player count, one more than the player count. And
when somebody
if somebody
went to that
took
place,
that
yes.
action, they got to scoop up all of those bombs, take one. Everybody else in the game gets to take one as well, and then the player who did the action gets the last one. So the player who did the action automatically got 2.
Right.
But in order to build the bombs, you had to have the plutonium or uranium.
Yeah, and to get the plutonium and uranium, you had to have the yellow cake.
Yes, you had to have the yellow cake. So it was an interesting game. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. This is one we actually taught my mom how to play right before Christmas, and
it took her a minute, but she started to get it at the end of the game.
Yes, she was starting to get it at the end of the game. Unfortunately, the game ended right about the time it clicked.
Right.
But she got it,
mm-hmm.
and I was proud of that. I was impressed with that.
I think the one thing about this game that I think they fixed in the other ones, but the plutonium bombs, they had 2 different scoring mechanisms on it, and if you had to explode one, basically test one at the beginning, and then you could get the higher number. But if you never tested, you only got the lower number.
Because it was an untested bomb.
Right.
So, and whereas tested bombs sold better.
Yeah, and that's the direction I went almost every time, and you went through the uranium, which was always a higher number, but it was harder to get.
Yes, the very first game, I went the same direction. I tested my plutonium bomb, and I lost miserably. And then I realized, wait, if I do uranium,
you don't have to test.
I focused on uranium. I didn't even bother with plutonium.
Yeah.
I didn't have to test anything, and they were higher. Most of the time, they were higher victory points.
Right.
So
but they were
that route.
Yeah, but they were harder to get, and I think that's why I kept going
to harder
plutonium.
To get, but I lucked into cards on every one of them that gave me an engine for that uranium, and I won every game after that.
Yes, you did.
By building uranium bombs.
Yes,
so
you did.
I found
you had to rub it in.
Yes, I did. I found the strategy in that one, and I ran with it.
Yes, you did.
So, but that's Manhattan Project. Now, overall. And do you want to come back to components and art? Because they are the same on every game.
Yes, yeah.
Honestly. So we can come back to that at the very end.
We'll just talk about the difference in the gameplay first.
Now we're going to jump to Manhattan Project Minutes to Midnight, the second edition of Manhattan Project.
Yes.
This one did not come out. This one came out in 2018, 6 years after the original.
Yeah.
Also put out by Minion Games, designed by Brandon Tibbetts. This one was... the art was done by James Colmer and Clay Gardner. Still plays 2 to 5 players. It says 90 to 150 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a little bit longer game. It's a little more. It's a lot more complex.
Yes.
We did not teach this one to my mom.
No.
All right. So the intro for this one, again, partially from BGG, partially from the rulebook. 20 years after the end of the Manhattan Project, the superpowers of the world are embroiled in another. Are embroiled in another vicious arms race. Manufacturing nukes is no longer an obstacle. All nations are now capable of churning them out at a rapid pace. The challenge of this era lies in the development of various delivery systems called the nuclear triad, and the ability to strike faster and further from land, air, and sea. Each player represents one of the superpowers in the arms race, with the focus being to build up your to build up your use of strategic bombers, ballistic subs, and land-based ballistic missiles. So this one has some card play in it.
Yes.
In the subs.
Mm-hmm.
It also has token play in the
bombers.
And then from the air one, I'm trying to remember the ballistic missiles.
The IBCMs.
The IBCMs, yes.
Yes. That went on your missile silos.
Yes. You start the game with a basic number of I think it was 3 laborers. You could, throughout the game, pick up an additional 3. You could pick up spies, generals, and politicians. And again, each one did something different.
Mm-hmm.
The spies' primary focus was to
go to the other board.
Go to an alternate player's board.
Yep.
Yes.
Take up their spots.
Whereas the politicians were after money and the generals were doing the military actions. I mean, that's basically how it breaks down. This one was a little different in that on the board you had ways to not only gain more laborers, but you could train those laborers to be other things.
Right.
But the laborer went back to the general supply because that laborer turns into a politician or into a general or into a spy.
Unlike the first one where you could go to that one spot and then get the extra laborers that were out there and you got those for that turn. No, they didn't have that in this one.
Yes. No, they did not have those generic laborers in this one. Boy, they did in the other one. So this one has one of your military actions you can take is to build bombers or to build subs or to put, there was a totally different spot on the board to put nukes onto your silos. Those were the ballistic missiles.
Or put nukes into third world countries.
Put nukes into,
where you would gain control of using your politicians.
Yeah. So this one had just a lot more into it. There was an entirely separate board where you could buy components off of to put onto your board.
Yes.
And that was how you built, that was your tableau, was a series
your
of
buildings.
tiles.
Yeah.
And you could only have a maximum of 9 tiles on your board.
Yeah.
One of which was a test site.
Yeah.
If you tested a nuke there,
that site's done.
It was
because you could build over the top of buildings as long as it wasn't tested.
Exactly. As long as it wasn't an exploded test site.
Right.
Or a bombed test site, or whatever you want to call it.
Or you didn't have nukes on it already.
Right. There wasn't already nukes there. So, meanwhile, there's also a tech track of sorts where you are gaining production in 5 different tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Your ability to make bombers, your ability to make subs, your ability to add nukes to your ICBMs or your ability to protect yourself with the ICBMs or the ability to add nukes to your silos.
Yes.
So there was a number, and there was one more too, but you had tech tracks that you were trying to advance in with your research skills, and that was, again, one of those tiles you could put on your board to do research. This was another one where you could put something on the board. You had a total of 2 actions per turn. Some actions required multiple people, but you had a total of 2 actions per turn, and that was it.
Yep.
So you could take 2 generals and put them into the same spot to get 2 military actions at the end when you were called.
Yeah.
That was another big difference. In Manhattan Project, you did the action as you were placing your workers, and then when you wanted to pull back, you just pulled them back.
Yes.
With this one, it's different. You do the action, you put your workers out, you don't do the actions till you're recalling them.
Right, and then you can do them in any order.
Yes, you recall in any order you want to make it work for your plan.
So it's kind of like you're putting your workers out to build the engine you're going to run when you go to pull them back in.
Yes, when you go to pull them back. So that was interesting to me, and that was hard to schedule because sometimes you'd end up with somebody out there and you're like, I have no money now. I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. This guy's useless.
Yep.
Whatever. Some of these spots cost money. So you had to have money to even use the spot. Very interesting. I did like this one. Way more complex than Manhattan Project.
Yeah, and this had, along the scoreboard, it had periodically where different things would score at a certain time, like the bombers, the third world, the IBCM silos, and the ballistic subs.
Did I have that written down? I did not. I never wrote down the end of game.
So the different ones would always, so depending on what number it is, and depends on how many people you have playing as to where they sit. And then they would score. So, I mean, like,
and every
if
time
bomber scored first, everybody's trying to go for the bombers, which would never worked.
No. But those varied.
Yes.
They were
varied
random
as to
every
where
time.
It was varied as to when they would score.
Yes. And the token that triggered them to score moved every time somebody pulled their people back.
Yes.
So the more often people pulled back, the more often that token moved and the faster scoring would happen.
Yeah, and I think we noticed that after our first play.
Yes.
When we played the second time, we realized, it's like, hey, that first game was really long, but we were trying to maximize every single
I think
turn.
that was my biggest problem with this one is even when we, in the second and third plays, even when we didn't try to maximize all of our workers and we were pulling back before we were out of workers, by the last 3 or 4 turns, I was like, well, there's nothing really I can do. I'm fully researched out. I can't send bombers
yeah, you can go up that
over.
research track
I'm
really
out of
quick.
subs to build.
Yep. Well, you researched yourself out because you had 2 research labs.
I did.
You had 2 research labs, and then I had 2, what was it, plants? Something like that.
Factories.
The factories, yeah. And I'd had like 2 factories, and I wasn't using them, so I think I got rid of one and ended up building another nuclear plant to get more missiles out.
So that was my only big complaint with this one is I felt like it went on a little too long. That I wish that maybe it was, and you could totally control that just by, okay, it says that the ending should be at 30, so how about we back it down to 25 and just adjust each of the other tokens?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's not exactly what the rulebook says, but I could see you doing that to make it a tighter game.
And in a 2-player game, too, when we played, every time you took back your people, when you moved up the track, or when the disc moved up the track to keep in the time, you would get something like a coin or a nuke.
And in a 2-player game,
it was
always the exact same
The only
thing.
way we would get off is if somebody took
Pulled
back
back
twice
way too
faster
early.
than the other person did. So,
which very rarely happened.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to
so now
Energy
the last
Empire.
one, Energy Empire, and this one kind of took a little bit of a turn. This one actually came out in 2016, so it came out prior to Manhattan Project 2.
Yeah, it came out between them.
However, in a chronological order in terms of what it represents, it's later. So that's why I'm doing it later. So this was also published by Minion Games. This was designed not by Brandon Tibbetts, but by Tom Jolly and Luke Laurie. So 2 totally different designers. Art by Josh Capel and Jeffrey Edwards. Plays 1 to 5 players and plays in 60 to 120 minutes. Now the intro, again, broken record here, partially BGG, partially the rulebook. But in the decades following World War II, unprecedented economic growth and technological progress sweeps across the globe. The major threat in Energy Empire is not war, but uncertain global impacts that result in the side effects of industrialization and pollution. Many actions come at a cost. So as nations become more industrious, they also increase the amount of pollution in the environment. Careful use of science can mitigate the harmful effects of industry, but can also help avert global crisis. So this one deals more with renewable energy, the start of renewable energy, and dealing with coal and nuclear and renewable energy as a whole.
Yes.
This deals with pollution. Matter of fact, your player board, a good chunk of your player board represents your environment. And the idea is you're trying to keep your environment pollution free. There's ways around it, but it costs you a lot of actions to do that.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, this game, how did I play that? The game is so different, but yet in a way it still plays the same. You're placing your workers, you're buying buildings, you're placing workers on your buildings to get this, to do that. So all the plays in all 3 games was that. You're buying buildings to make things.
Yes,
and
this
things
one was
happen.
slightly different, though.
Right.
So, so this one had 3, instead of having dozens of places on the board you can go, there were 3 main placement areas on the board: the government, industry, and commerce.
Yes.
Each of those regions on the board had 4 to 5 spots you could put your workers. Now, unlike the other 2, where if somebody went to a location, it was blocked until everybody pulled back, until somebody pulled back.
Yep.
This one you were never truly blocked.
No.
It just cost you energy to use it. So, for example, if Greg went to the government area where he was going to buy a card, then in order for me to go to that government area to buy a card, I now had to use not only a worker, but an energy token as well.
Yeah, it was the one who had the highest stack.
Yes. And then if Greg wanted to get another card up there before he or I pulled back, now he has to place a worker up there with 2 energy. You always have to increase the amount of energy under your worker by 1 for every other person on the board, on that area. In each of the areas, there was a place to buy cards. Cards is how you built your tableau. Those were your spots you could access, but nobody else could. And those gave you different things. They gave you resources. They gave you science tokens. They allowed you to do different actions.
Yeah, allowed you to clean up.
Allows you to do some cleanup of your environment and all that type of stuff. So every turn, you had to place a worker on the board.
Mm-hmm.
When you placed a worker on the board, you place it in one of the 3 areas, in one of the slots in those 3 areas, and then you had the option of activating any of those color cards on your tableau.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, that was the first thing when we first started playing I didn't like. I was like, are you kidding me? I have to go to this one when I don't have anything over there I can do, but that's the color buildings I have, so I have to go over here basically wasting a turn because I'm not going to be able to do anything there, or I don't want to do anything just so I can get these two buildings to activate. Yeah. But the longer we played the game,
the more it made sense.
It started dawning on me. It was like, yeah, if it wasn't that, you could play someplace and then just activate every card on in your tableau, and it would just make it really lopsided.
Like Manhattan Project.
Yes.
Activate every building in your tableau by placing one worker on the board.
Yeah.
And this one you had to go and you could only activate the areas you were in.
Correct.
The area you just placed in. Let's put it that way. So, and the areas, every place had a card. Every government, industry, commerce section had a card purchasing area that would add to your tableau.
Yep.
And that was totally said wrong, but you get the idea.
And it would tell you whether you got pollution when you did it, or nuclear pollution.
Some cards gave you pollution. Yes, because there were 2 types of pollution. There was coal pollution and there was nuclear pollution. Coal pollution could be cleaned up. You could clean up 2 for every science token.
Too. There was a nuclear token, and the other side had the gas mask on it, and that was both coal and petroleum because of the dice, because this introduced dice.
Gotcha. You're right. This did introduce dice. Okay. I forgot about the
petroleum.
Okay. But it was the same token. That's why I forgot.
Yes.
In addition to picking up the cards, like I said, some of the cards gave you pollution, some didn't. You could go to one of the spots underneath the card selection area. In the industry area, you could pick up dice, and dice is how you got your energy back.
Yes.
So whenever you pulled your workers back, you got to roll any or all of your dice that you had. You did not have to roll them, but that was the only way to get energy for the next round. Or I should say, but you also ran the risk of getting pollution from it, depending on the dice you were rolling.
Yeah, because the dice with the highest number is what's going to happen.
Would dictate your pollution level.
So if your highest dice was like petroleum, or which was the brown dice, the coal, which was the black dice, or the nuclear, which was the yellow dice, which I don't think we bought. Neither one of us ever bought one of those.
I don't think I ever did, because I didn't have the resources to do it.
So if one of those had the higher number on it, you were going to get a pollution.
And to explain, these are all custom dice.
Yes.
Every die face had a number from 1 to 6 on it, and then had some sort of other icon. Whether it was nuclear, they all had energy icons, anywhere from 1 to 3 energy lightning bolts.
Yeah.
And then some faces had pollution symbols on them.
Some type of pollution. Yep.
So, when you rolled your dice, when you pulled all your people back, that determined, again, how much energy you got, if you got pollution or not. Simple as that.
And then the green and the blue dice didn't have pollution on it,
but
they cost
renewable.
More, and they had less energy on it.
And you could only have so much of them.
You only could have one blue one, but you could have as many green ones as you wanted.
That's true. All in all, interesting game. I liked the tableau with all the separate cards, but again, not any different than the tableaus in the other 2 where you had your buildings you were activating. It's the same concept. Okay, so here's now where we're going to compare a little bit. In terms of, Oh, and this one, I'm sorry, but back up 1 second. Energy Empire, this one ends, the end of the game is determined by a timer that what's the word I'm looking for? The game timer is a series of stacks of pollution tokens set out.
Yes.
I want to say there's 6 sets of tokens, maybe 5. I don't remember. The number of stacks is the number in the stack is determined by the player count.
Yes.
Like for a 2-player game, there was 4 tokens in each stack on 6 different pieces of the board. So every time you had to take pollution, unless it specifically said take it from the supply, you took it from the stacks. So if you picked up a card that gave you pollution, you took it from the stack. If you picked it up from an area of the board that gave you pollution for doing the action, you took it from the stacks.
If you pulled back and rolled your dice, you always took that from the stack.
So those tokens disappeared quick.
Yes, they did.
So I was surprised how quick the game ran.
Yeah, and then every time a token stack would run out, an event card would come up.
Yes.
And you'd have to deal with the event card.
Some were good.
As they went down,
some
they
were
got
bad.
worse.
Yes.
Yeah, the green cards weren't bad. The red cards were always really bad.
Yes, absolutely.
They would give you some type of pollution where you're going to have to clean it up.
Yep. Okay, a little bit of comparisons. Components. The components across the board on all of these, I think, were pretty good.
Yeah.
Good card quality. The tokens for the workers are all thick and sturdy. They pretty much all the same. The artwork on all of them look pretty similar on across the board, even though I know it was different artists in Energy Empire. Matter of fact, I think on all of them it was different artists. But the token art all was pretty much similar.
Yeah.
Rule books, Energy Empire, I mean, it's a basic rule book. I liked it, but it wasn't anything special.
No.
The other two, the layout of them. And now take this as my journalism background from working on a high school newspaper. The layout of these is reminiscent of a 1940 era's headlines of a newspaper.
Yep.
And I love it. I love the layout of these rule books. Big, bold headlines to identify different sections of the rule book. Coffee stains as part of the graphic design. I love these rule books. They're all done in like a gray and black finish with color. The only color in them is the examples. Everything else is black and white or black and gray. I just love these rule books. I think they were the layout of them, the graphic design of them is wonderful. And I think they were super easy to read, and anything I needed to find, I could easily find. And that's important.
So we've talked about all 3 of them. Now, here's the big thing is we're going to rate the one that we like the best.
Oh, my gosh.
So, Katie, which one did you like the best out of the 3?
I was firm on Manhattan Project before we really started talking about them. And now that I've talked about them, because I did like all 3. Minutes to Midnight, I felt went on a little too long. And by the end of it, I was at a loss of what to do. Because it stretched on too long. Manhattan Project to me, again, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I found the key to it. And if I had to play one again, it'd be Energy Empire to me. Because Minutes to Midnight, I think, stretched too long. For what it is, it was too long. And I don't say that very often. But to me, as long as the game continues to give you strong choices, I don't care how long it lasts. But when I am literally down to none of these benefit me, I might as well pull back because there's nothing else that even helps.
Right.
Then that's not a good choice when I have a tableau full of workers available. Manhattan Project, again, I really like it, but I feel like I found the key to it really fast.
Yeah, because we played it like 4 times in a row, and I won one of them. That was the first one. Then all of a sudden, it was like you knew exactly what to do.
Exactly. So I feel like I don't need to play that one again, if that makes sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will. I'd like to play it with more players.
Yes.
But I don't. The only one I don't feel like I have figured out is Energy Empire, if that makes sense.
Who won that one?
I did. So apparently I figured it out.
Apparently you did.
But I don't think we knew that till the very end.
That one's hard to figure out who's winning that game.
It was one of those you count up points toward the end because your cards have points on them, and to me, Energy Empire. Now, what would I rate it?
So 3's a good game. Play it before you buy it, though. It may not be for you.
I would say probably a 3, maybe a 3.5 at most. It is a good game. I like the premise of all 3 of them. I think I don't want to say the historical factor of it, but they definitely tried to. They use the right terminology for each one of them.
Yeah.
I think, as far as I know. And again, World War II was never my specialty, but I found it intriguing in the yellow cake and the ICBMs and the terminology they tried to use. I felt like they tried to stick with the time period, and I loved what they did with the rule books. But all in all, if I had to choose, I'd say Energy Empire.
Manhattan Project was a game I've always wanted to play.
Yes.
I've been looking for it ever since I found out about it and couldn't find it, and finally found a copy of it and got to play it. It's one of those that it didn't do the stuff I wanted it to do. There's pretty much one way to victory in this, and you pretty much found it, and I didn't. I was always trying to find the fastest way to get to victory, and that's not through the petroleum bombs.
Plutonium.
So, plutonium. Will I play it again, like you said? Yeah, sure. I mean, we have it.
We super
spent the money
easy
on
and
it. It's
super fast.
easy to get to it. And like you said, I'd like to play it with more players because I
Yeah.
imagine it's going to be a different play with more players. Manhattan Project 2, Minutes to Midnight. I loved it. I love tech tracks. It had tech tracks.
It
But like you
does.
said, you could go up depending on the buildings you build, if you build multiple research stations, you're going to go up those tracks really, really quick.
Yes.
So I feel like, because you could have one of every single building and you're going to double up one of them, and you had to figure out which one you were going to double up on.
Yeah.
I did like the fact that you could train your basic workers to make them better and then come back and get basic workers back. And there was one spot where you could go and pay 5 coins and get all your basic workers back. So you have all those for your next couple turns. And once I got to that point, once I had enough of the other workers, I only played my basic workers on my board.
Yes.
But with that, the bombers I felt was a waste of time, and I kind of proved that in the second game we
There's
played.
ways to block them.
Because I went all out on the bombers the first time we played. This second game, I went with the nukes. I got the bombers on your board and closed off my area so you couldn't place bombers in my area. But I went heavy into the nukes, or not the nukes.
Subs.
The subs, and was able to win the game.
Yeah.
Energy Empire, I didn't like it at the very beginning because of having to go to a certain area to be able to play a certain thing on the board, but I liked it, and I loved being able, because you have your the land there where you're putting your pollution and having to control that, so you're constantly looking, it's like, okay, where can I go to get rid of this pollution? Because you scored it, all the areas, you got a point for every area that was clean, and then the last 3 rows, if they were clean, you got more points for those too, which I cleared out, and I still lost the game though because my board was completely empty coming to the end of the game, and you had nukes on it. But you scored because you had nukes.
I scored because I had nukes. Yeah.
Yes, you had a card, and I liked how you could get different
In-game
in-game
goals.
scoring tokens depending on what ones you got.
When you pulled back.
So
Yeah.
I would have to go with Energy Empire is the one I would want to play the most because I feel we just scratched the surface on that game. And
I agree.
Need to dig into it farther. So, and I think I would go with the 3 again. 3 as well on this one. I don't think it's one you should rush out and get. 1, I don't know if you can find it anymore.
Yeah.
But 2, these types of games may not be for everybody.
Right.
So you'd probably want to play it, go to a convention, find it, play it, come to our house, we'll play it with you. But yeah, you probably want to play it before you buy it. So I'm going to give that a 3 as well.
All right.
So
Sounds unanimous.
Yep. So that's our review of the Manhattan Project trilogy, I guess you could call it. So let us know in the comments what you guys think. Have you played these games? And if you have, what would you rate them? What was your comments about them? But that's going to bring us to the end of episode 56. So we'd like to remind you that our top 100 games of all time has started to drop on our YouTube channel. We have 100 through 91 is out, and
By the time this releases, 90 through 81 will release as well.
there you go. Plus, we also have our top 10 games of 2023 coming out too. That'll be dropping soon. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, just follow the links in the show notes, and I promise I will put it there this time. There you'll find links to Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, and our merch shop. or you can contact us directly at meeplesociety@mail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next one.